everybody. Welcome back to the Dawn of Drones podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldi, your host and the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting. I'm at the tail end of a 3-state, 3-time zone tour. I'm coming to you live from fabulous Las Vegas, and it's kind of apropos because I actually met our guest today here in this very town at Commercial UAV Expo last year in September. And so we have with us Jamar Williams, the CEO of PromoDrone. Welcome, Jamar.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hey, Don, it's good to see you again. Always a good time when we get to chat. So
I know. We were on Clubhouse last week, everybody. So if you missed that, go back and listen to the replay. But that's just audio. And I really feel like it's the first time I'm seeing Jamar since January, when you were on that stage with me at Lady Gaga's stage. Yeah, also in Las Vegas at the Dolby Live Theater at the Park MGM during Edge 2022. So that was so fun.
It was awesome. Vegas has a new special spot in our hearts, so we're excited about it. The connection so cool. Between San Diego and Vegas is becoming a thing, so it's awesome.
Well, that's a great segue. Actually, you're in San Diego. You're a San Diego-based company. Now let's talk a little bit about your background, though, before we get to PromoDrone and kind of why you built it and what's going on with the company. So if memory serves, I was surprised by this because I didn't know this when you told us in Clubhouse. You're an artist, but you're actually an R&B or like rap artist?
Hip hop artist. Yeah. That was me. Yeah, rap. I'm a lyricist. That's one of my passions. I've been doing it since 8th grade talent show. So I'll be 43 years old this year. You do the math, however many dinosaur bones that adds up to. But yeah, that was my. As a kid, I was very much into animation, creative things, the way things work, the process of things. And my dad's a jazz percussionist, so I was raised around music and syncopation. And it's funny because growing up in Baltimore, there's a lot of idle hands can be the devil's playground, so to speak. Without going into detail, my dad was like, with all the statistics and things happening, he didn't want his son to be, another one of those things. So he did whatever it took to keep me engaged in things. So him being a world-class percussionist, he would teach me how to count music, how to understand rhythms and syncopation. And that opened up a Pandora's box of just tinkering with creativity and how to build things. Even if it started as a song, it was kind of my earliest exposure to creation on my own outside of coloring books, kind of deal. And when I got the positive response from it, I was like, oh, I might kind of be good at this. It encouraged, continued creation. So fast forward however many years, and PromoDrone is an extension of that part of my personality, I think.
Well, I love that. And, we always talk about, STEM or STEAM, right? That art part of science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And your nexus with the STEM part of it with drones really came from that music career. Is that right? Can you give us a little bit of explanation how the music linked you up with drones?
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, my dad built me my first computer, and I was in the 7th grade, somewhere around that range. And he put my first music program on it and got me a little keyboard that plugged into this, big white computer. They don't look anything like they do now. It's the ones with the full back to the thing, right? Like heavy sealants and further. But I learned how to use Cakewalk, which is a music production program, and Cubase, some of the earlier programs. So then I started to understand how to put technology with creativity, how to take my lyrics and what I had in here and apply it to structure inside of a computer in order to produce a song that could be a product and output of that creativity. Became a banker after college in order to pay student loans and just to have a career while I'm trying to figure out how to make it in music, and didn't realize that I would be really good at banking as a result of that creative mindset. It's like that propelled my ability to do business, my ability to do technology, because it's given me the opportunity to look at problems from a slightly different perspective, which is why aviation, when I came into PromoDrone, just by using drones to film things for music videos or just getting into cinematography to promote my music, the feedback from the world, the community, the neighbors who saw my drone good, bad, or indifferent reminded me of feedback of being on stage, whether they were yelling, get that drone out of here, or what is that cool, awesome toy. I was the MC, so to speak, the drone pilot, but an MC, because they are, I'm the master of that ceremony. The drone pilot's mastering that operation, so to speak. So even though I wasn't verbally creating as much, I started to still get that fulfillment from still having that connection to human reactions to my creations. So PromoDrone is a blend of that story with being in the right place at the right time with the introduction of this just awesome technology that I had never even heard of. I thought it was like a robot. Like, what is this? It is, they are, but one of my old business partners was like, hey man, we're my roommate and I are ordering a drone. You want to help us build it? And I was like just getting into cameras. I didn't, I was music guy. So
Right.
camera lenses, cinematography, drones was just kind of like, whatever, okay, just an open book to learn it. And it took us 18 months to get the first DJI F450 or 550 drone, which was a bunch of parts in a box. We, learned how to solder and program rotors. The next thing you know, we're one of the first drone operators in San Diego. But this was prior to the certification. It was the Wild West. So,
Yeah, so let's back up. You said so many things there. I want to just kind of. So first of all, I got to tell you, I was almost cracking up when you said like creativity and finance in the same sentence, because as an attorney, my head's exploding, right? Because like in the Air Force, it was always like, no, there's got to be a rule to be able to spend the money this way, and if there's not a rule, you can't get creative. But no, your point is well taken, that this creative side of your brain, like to be able to excel in business, I really think tapping into that to find creative solutions, because there are so many like rules and roadblocks, and doing it in a legal and ethical and moral way, but finding a creative solution when there are barriers or roadblocks. I think that's huge. So I just want to say that up front. The other thing is, I mean, you guys had parts in a box and created a drone. So what year are we talking about here? Because you said it was before Part 107, and I think I know that came out in 2016.
This was 2014, like 2014, maybe even 13, but I want to, just for the sake of argument, I'll say 2014. So yeah, we were flying before regulations. We were, things that operations we would never get, be able to do today because nobody knew. I mean, we were flying these things downtown off of rooftops of skyscrapers, then in a safe way, but yeah, so to see that the industry has evolved, where we have these regulations, we have a practical approach to success with that creativity. It's no longer this Wild West. It's like, okay, you can build something. There's an audience and a community that are all in this similar space. So you've got that like internet bubble thing happening where with all these drone companies trying to rush in and do all this cool stuff, and everything will shake out. So it's just right place, right time, and a lot of just grit and pushing through. That's it, really. Kind of deal. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of, look, this is Industry Diversity Month, and wanted to talk a little bit about, you kind of alluded to it growing up in, yeah, you got to like a little, there we go. I think something got on the lens there. I don't know.
there you
Perfect.
go.
Okay. You kind of alluded to it growing up in Boston or Baltimore, your parents, and particularly your dad, not wanting you to become, kind of a statistic. I mean, I'm from Philly. I mean, we all know Baltimore is kind of there's a lot of rough, parts of town there. And that's where you grew up, and clearly you've excelled and succeeded. I assume you give a lot of credit to your parents for helping guide and shape you, to kind of get out of that neighborhood and really succeed.
Yeah, definitely. I was fortunate because I had a mom, dad, and a stepmom. So I had three parents when a lot of my friends barely had one, and I was raised in an inner city Baltimore for my childhood, most of my early years, and then got into some legal things as in Baltimore as a kid. Sharing a lot here that I've never really shared publicly before, but
Hey, you know what?
I'll just
Look, as a kid, people make mistakes. And what I love to hear, I mean, look, I've worked with general officers and chief master sergeants in the Air Force that, got Article 15s, there's one rung below a court martial early in their, when they were kind of, survive that to become, leaders in our, military. So, I mean, I think those things, making mistakes early on, it's kind of in a way a blessing because, as long as you're resilient, you bounce back from that. It really helps, I think, guide your path in a positive way.
Yeah, and it makes you, it made me who I am today. And it makes those people who they are. Those defining moments were opportunities where I could have went left when I went right. And it all led me to this where I am today on this great, platform. So I wouldn't change a thing about it. I do think back at times and I do get not really embarrassed, but just a little emotional, I guess, of the how different I am and the change that you had to go through and that creativity, having parents that put me in a position to embrace change and creativity, even though you have to do a lot of it on your own. It's an independent journey, but having that support system was definitely good. I mean, just to put it out there, like I was expelled from high school, right? Like I was literally expelled from high school, almost didn't graduate, came back the last month of the school year to walk across the stage and shake Colin Powell's hand as the one of the speakers in high school. I got almost 1100 on my SATs after that and got a partial scholarship to a school in New Jersey, which opened up my exposure to different cultures, personalities, and it was a communication school. So they embraced my hip hop and everything. So it gave me that sense of pride, and that what was missing was a sense of confidence and a sense of value. So being able to be independent built those things in me because I had a foundation. But when I would look around at some of my friends, they're all, variety of different backgrounds and where they've come from. So I could very easily, clearly see how fortunate I was, and really can appreciate that, even though we went through our struggles and we had our difficulties. Being able to have a dad, especially, that I can connect with and talk to about life, growth, not have to repeat the same mistakes. It's not to be discounted, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, there you were, from the streets of Baltimore to becoming like basically a drone pioneer, one of the first ones flying, even before, Part 1 of 7 existed. What, you know, I assume there weren't too many people flying drones around Baltimore when you're doing this at this time.
Well, this was San Diego when I started. I had my first drone was here in San Diego. Yeah, I moved to San Diego in 2010, so drones weren't even I had never even envisioned it outside of Star Wars, probably, kind of deal at that point.
So what was the reception you received? Because, we always talk about this, public acceptance thing, and you're like an early mover, you're out there, in San Diego, flying these things. What kind of reception did you receive?
It was pretty good at first because we got into real estate, so we were one of the first drone companies, so to speak, within real estate. So when I lost my job in 2008 during the whole banking crisis fallout, everything's in the air. But I had 10 years, almost 10 years of banking development, relationship management, all these things under the sun. So when I moved to San Diego, it gave me an opportunity to take all those skills and finally invest them just in myself. So I went on the job interviews overqualified. I wore the suits to the banks of San Diego where everybody's wearing polos and flip-flops, and it was just a very different culture. From Baltimore, if you're corporate, you're black shoes, blue or black, gray or gray suit, button up, tie,
Yep.
it's a very
There's a uniform.
And it's like you look outside and you see oceans of that, right? And everybody at lunch looks the same, right? And it's cool to some degree because it creates, this kind of consistency. But at the same time, it's not a lot of uniqueness there. It's not a lot of, so being able to create my own path, determine our own methodologies using those corporate fundamentals, but being able to flex it in our way just gives us a little bit of leverage, I think, and makes it fun to do work at the same time.
Well, I'll tell you, Jamar, I think a lot of us know real estate photography was really one of the first major use cases for drones that we saw early on, like you were talking about. I was actually just in Texas this weekend at the Texas Drone Workshop. Some great briefings, Sparky Sorensen, talking about all of this, and how that's even evolved. But at some point, you decided to do PromoDrone. So tell us about that journey, because you know, going from real estate photography to essentially taking your art background, this way of communicating, you know, because you have just unique ways of communicating through your music and otherwise. It just inspired you to create PromoDrone. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was power of observation, right? It's flying drones being yelled at to get those drones all out of my property, stop spying on whoever. It's fascination more. I would say that was probably a 10 to 15%. The other 85, 90% of it was fascination. It was, wow, what is that thing? I've never, because just as fascinated as I was when I first saw it, now I get to have that experience over and over and over again because no one's seen these things, right? So it's like every day I'm out there just doing my job, the negative attention aside, I would get groups of people surrounding me. Oh, what is that thing? Can I see what your screen looks like? What are you flying? What are you taking pictures of? Oh, they're doing that now. So I was really excited, one, about the technology, but two, about the fanfare that came along with the, because I was a fan myself, because I don't come from aviation. I was like, wow, this is, I hadn't never seen anything like it. I haven't been exposed to these things. It's airplanes, helicopters, and blimps. You know, now you've got drones, and I can fly them without having to go through, you know, at that time, ground school and all that stuff. So I can get in the game now. I can become a little bit of an aviator as a novice. So that creates that opportunity is what got me seriously interested. Just having people filming it, videoing it. It just is. I'm sure I'm not unique in that. Like probably every person on this call that's flown a drone at some point has had someone pull a phone out and record it for whatever reason, evidence, you know, fun, whatever it may be, right? So that's how PromoDrone was born. It was born out of, okay, if you're looking at it, and people are typically engaged in Instagram, Facebook, they're walking heads down, but when the drone's nearby, it forces them to do that. Even if it's for a split second, you've seen it. So if you've seen it, it's planted. Whether you remember, you know, so that's branding, that's marketing. It's that. So I was like, okay, well, if I could add a banner to it, could I get marketing done and could we monetize it? But I didn't know anything about how to make a drone fly with a banner on it. So we broke our first DJI, the one we built. We broke it trying to figure out how to do this. It never flew the same again after that, you know, flying it. But one failure led to another, which led to a less of a failure to more of a success. So over the years, we went from this DJI F550, which broke, to getting our first Inspire 1. So our first banner drone was an Inspire 1. When they first announced Inspires, everybody was so excited about the technology of the drone. We were like, oh, we have a bigger drone that we can put a banner on. Like we love the camera systems, but we were like, we want ads on these things. So we had these super sophisticated drones that were just designed to be, you know, flying billboards. And our very first flight was at an event in San Diego at the Hard Rock Hotel. And we launched the Inspire with the banner. And this, now when I look at, we've got digital displays. Our very first banner system were 2 clothespins, yarn, and a laminated sign that did the jiggy whenever it went in the air, right? So it did the little dance. And then 5 seconds in the air after it did its beautiful little dance, it flew off the drone and landed on top of the Hard Rock Hotel.
But and you were probably like, I meant to do that, right? Like,
right? Yeah, so now we've got like a clothespin dangling from the drone, like, you know, reminding us of the failure. We've got our banner on top of the Hard Rock, probably to this day, you know, still up there because it's like where the air conditioning is, that up there. But it was one of those defining moments where they say as an entrepreneur, it either breaks you or it makes you kind of deal. So, you know, that could have been extremely discouraging. It failed publicly at an event, for a networking event that we were, you know, beta testing it, so to speak. But I stuck with it. I tabled it for about a year while I did the video and photo for real estate to put money in my pocket and just learn more about production and video. And then had an opportunity to meet with one of the initial kind of co-founders of PromoDrone, who's no longer with the company, but had a background in the military and aviation, had a similar idea with the advertisements. And, you know, we started PromoDrone and I ran with it and have just been kind of doing iterations since then. We went from the Inspire to the Matrice with our first round of kind of early funding, got us to the platform that's global now. We have contracts in Guam, and we've got new pre-commitments lined up for our new digital display. So it's gone from a box of parts to a functioning kind of real estate enterprise, which evolved into full-blown advertising and marketing, with the content that we're capturing now being more of the AI facial capture data metrics versus cinematography and videography. So
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like from clothespins to AI. We're going to get to the AI, but before we do, Jamar, I want to give a couple shout outs for some folks that are chiming into the chat, which we always appreciate. Chris Wedgeworth has been here multiple times, becoming a regular. Appreciate you, Chris. Says, as long as you learn from your mistakes, it's all good. Totally agree. And not only that, like that conversation we had about like early days in school, but just even as a business person, as an entrepreneur, that failing forward, that idea that, oh my gosh, that's my first event, I'm using clothespins, this thing flew off. You can either pack it up and go home, or you can just go at it and make it better. And that's exactly what you did. And that's, Jamar, that's called resilience. And I love your story. And I love what you do. Clarence Covington's coming at us from Tanzania. Hello, Clarence. And Scott Kravitsky. I've been talking to Scott, Jamar, because we met on LinkedIn, and he's a retired teacher. He's an educator. He kind of straddles Florida and New York, and he's doing amazing things with STEAM education. So you're going to hear more about us. And when I say us, maybe me and one other person that you know very well. And Scott, hopefully here soon. But thanks, Scott, for chiming in, and appreciate all of you. Keep it coming. We love the positive encouragement. We love the comments. We love the ask questions. So let's, from the box of parts to kind of the initial banner like model, beyond the clip. Okay. You went to Colombia, or you worked with a company or folks in Colombia to design the first banner that was super successful, that up until now, and so you're still using to this day, but you're evolving into a digital display. Tell us about, kind of that design, because I'm not an aeronautical engineer. I'm not like, obviously I'm a very artistic brain person, which is why I went to law school and didn't do engineering. But, I imagine flying something with the wind and everything like that, you have to have it shaped just right. It has to have some kind of flow through, so that for the stability of the aircraft. How did you do that? And who did you do it with?
Yeah, it was a challenge, and I think that's what has given us our ability to kind of lead the way with this. When we first started, we weren't the first ones with the idea. We had it, and we were like, okay, has it been done? That's the first thing you do. You start researching who else is doing it.
Who else is out there?
Yeah, we saw a few companies trying it, and when we looked at their solutions, none of them really seemed to be as effective or as consistent. Reason being, you're dealing with air, you're dealing with contrasting movements of wind speeds and things like that create all types of complicated situations. So in order to make this work, you have to have something that's stable first, because the moment it gets up there and wind hits your banner, when I look at an airplane and it does a tow behind, unless that thing is up on you and you're really looking at it, it's got this wavy effect happening, and it's not engaging. Yeah, it ripples, right? So a lot of the drones that I saw that were trying to do it, wasn't a lot, it wasn't many, but they all had the payload going vertically down, and it was a fabric that would just, it had no tension. There's no tension there.
Oh,
So
almost like a streamer, like hanging down.
It's like a streamer hanging down, right? So I'm like, well, how can that work? One, it's not safe. Two, it's not consistent. The moment the winds hit 7 miles per hour, that thing is gone. It's
Getting sucked up in the propellers.
Well, that, or just the drone itself. They were using tiny drones, and they were just doing it. But I understood, because that's where our mindset went initially. We're like, okay, can we just make it a more rigid structure? I mean, we did 3D printed parts of the same kind of banner solution, where it wasn't flimsy, it was just rigid, and it still just wouldn't work. So I'm sitting in my house one day, and I'm just brainstorming, and I look at my lampshade, and I'm thinking, when you look at what happens in a lampshade, it's there to, diffuse light. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, and I'm like, well, what happens if we turn that thing upside down? Now you have wind that hits the sides and slopes. It creates this, that was the basis of our platform was the concept of a lampshade, concave sides that were tapered at the bottom, wider at the top, more narrow at the bottom, to allow for the flow of wind to pass downward to help with lift. So we had that part figured out. Now we had to figure out how to attach it, and then we looked at the props, the arms on the drone, and we said, how do we make a clamp that has to, go in bi-directional, where it's going, one way to connect to the arm of the drone, but then another way to connect to the tubing that has to be part of the frame of that lampshade, so to speak.
Right.
And we started looking at bicycle parts. Like, if you think about the connectors of the parts we have now that actually clamp to the arms of the matrice, it's based on a bike stem. The same way handlebars go through a bike stem, and then that stem then connects into the foundation of the bike. It has this almost bi-directional functionality. We created our new version of that and designed an entirely new clamping mechanism specific for our platform. So now we have, really lightweight, less than 6 pounds when it's totally outfitted with 2 banners, plastic, 3D printed material that's super strong, lightweight, branded. It's a multi-jet fusion process, and yeah, and it works. It works fine because of the way that we did it. And when you talk about Colombia, we got introduced to Joe in Colombia, who's an aerospace engineer who designs products for aerospace, through a contact of ours in San Diego, who he had done some design work for some aviation stuff, airplane stuff, and yeah, introduced, and we tapped the project together and brainstormed, and next thing you know, we're off to the races, I guess.
Well, I'm not in my home office, but I have the PromoDrone banner you made for me, the P3 Tech Consulting one, hanging up on my wall there, Jamar. By the way, everybody, Jamar gave me that banner on Lady Gaga's stage, so it was very meaningful to me, and it still is. But what I found really interesting about as you describe it, it's 3D printed. It's almost like a hard mesh. Like, there's little holes through it, I'm assuming, for aerodynamics, so the air can also flow through that. You don't have a solid, piece of plastic or material, that there's that kind of flow that can happen through it.
Yeah, porous. So it's porous. It allows for about 25% airflow through there. In addition, we fly with the sides exposed. So you've got a front-facing banner at 0 degrees, and then you've got at 180, the second banner. So at the 90 and 270 is airflow going through. So that allows for crosswinds. You can change it if the so because it's lightweight, because it's center mass, it's a compact frame versus a long twisting banner, more stable flights, longer flight time, readable, engaging, high contrast, highly readable banners that can be outfitted with anything from messaging to images to QR codes and things that will take an offline drone experience and make it an online experience for continued marketing engagement, social media reactions, etc.
Yeah, and it cracks me up too. You're like, oh, we met Joe from Colombia, through like the point being here, right? It's all about these relationships and connections. And the fact that you met Joe, that helped you design this thing, that kind of really propelled your business, I would say, is amazing. And speaking of connections, we got Sam Scully out there from Scully Staffing Solutions saying, good morning. Great conversation, learning more and more about you, Jamar, and the company. Sam's doing great things out in the LA area, and I know you all are working together on an event coming up. And then we got Phantom Flight 101 saying, good morning, everyone. So, absolutely, that's what I love about this podcast and the Clubhouse, is the connections that we make here. And, my guest, Jamar, is someday you're going to meet Phantom Flight 101 at some conference, and he's going to be like, or she, not sure, is going to be like, hey, I saw your podcast. That was me chiming in. And it'd be like, and then all of a sudden you're, off to the races there too. Connected. But, it's just incredible. So your banner, you've used it so many places. I know from, we talked about this in the article. By the way, everybody, I wrote an article about PromoDrone for DroneLife back in, I'm going to say like the October timeframe. So go back and find that, check that out, where we talk about all of this. Because once I met Jamar and Jory, his partner in crime that helps him with the marketing and business development, I was like, we have to stay in touch. I love your use case. It's so unique. I want you to be on my podcast, and here he is. So I'm so excited. But we did that article back then. I really got to know a little bit about the business. And you've evolved it. So when we last spoke, like when I interviewed you for that article way back then, feels like eons ago. You were just in kind of prototype mode of a digital display. So tell us about how, you went from this kind of 3D printed, mesh-like banner to this 3D digital display and how that's going to work.
Yeah, it was awesome. Well, this all happened. A lot of the transition happened during 2020, during COVID. Everyone's sitting at home. Opportunities are, scarce, a lot more scarce than they were plentiful at one point.
For sure.
And we had one of the companies here in San Diego, Collective LLC. They're a drone engineering, hardware manufacturing company here locally that I've had a relationship with for a few years. Just letting them know what the plans are, talking about how they can support. During COVID, they said, "Hey, Jamar, I know what you're trying to do with your drone platform. We'd love to build your alpha for you, at a great price to help, help you make it work because we want to see this happen." So, it was stimulus time. We were getting grants and all types of things through stimulus for being entrepreneurs and really took advantage of the opportunities for funding for small businesses while we had the chance to do it. You don't have to pitch to investors right now. You can get some government funding to help support your business. And we've been in business for a few years, and we were like the perfect candidates for these types of resources. So we applied for as much of that stuff as we could that we were a fit for, and use that money to pay for the alpha prototype. So this, where we're at right now in terms of evolution, when you think of companies that were founded during pandemics and epidemics and things like that, we were there before, but the pandemic really spurred our ability to connect globally because of just the shared experience of being at home, looking for something to focus on post-pandemic. So that's how we got our first contract in Guam with the current system. So now,
so this is, what are you doing in Guam? Tell us about that.
Yeah, we have a licensing agreement with a company in Guam that uses our current banner system to fly drone advertisements in their market. So they've paid us to use our technology. They're deploying it on hospitality, local events in their market, and eventually will be, upgrading to the digital once it's ready. So we have this kind of pipeline where they can, upgrade their technology and be one of the earliest users for our new platform.
Jamar, is that Bella?
Yeah.
So I remember you mentioning this before, and so, like, again, these connections are insane. So I just saw Grant Guillotte, good colleague and friend of mine. He's out in the Bahamas with Dragonfly and Bella. Yep. And you and Dragonfly were also on the Lady Gaga stage with me together. So it's just crazy how like you said, global this industry is, but at the same time how small it is in a way. And the connections and the kind of connective tissue that can occur between all of these different companies and ideas. So that's awesome. They're out there using it. So getting back to your digital display, you used the term AI. Speaking of Dragonfly, right? You're using the term AI, artificial intelligence. Tell us how AI is incorporated into the new digital display, because clearly, the static banner it's a dumb. I mean, not in a derogatory sense.
I know what you mean.
It's a dumb banner. It's literally a mesh net. Now you've gone to some kind of digital artificial intelligence, like machine learning thing. I mean, that's pretty significant. Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we first started this, I've always wanted to make it do more, right, than just display an ad. And what I realized just from the feedback we would get from the marketers and people we would fly the banner for is, how can I tell how many people saw it, or how do I know, like most outdoor campaigns, if you pay for a billboard in the middle of Times Square, you're relying on, well, digital might be a little different if they have cameras, but you're relying on statistics to estimate what your ROI is on that feature or that ad, right? Yeah. With our system, with the facial capture, the AI, we're able to recognize faces while the drone is featuring content, and we can give the marketers an idea of the audience engagement on that advertisement. So we're talking the age of your population, gender of your population, emotional scores, happiness, are they wearing certain products? So when you think of artificial intelligence, it's more so um, awareness and reporting information that's with outwardly observable features. The intelligence comes in when it does something with the information. It says, okay, I realize that here's the population in front of me. What should I do? And it'll, on its own, based on a series of ways that it's learned or been programmed to learn, it may change the advertisement or change up the experience or hyper target a specific segment of that population for whatever the programming might be to be more relevant, to get more engagement out of that audience. So instead of having passive commercials where you're relying on just attention, you're manipulating the commercial in order to get the best reaction from the most valuable audience segments that's responding to that. So that's where
I think it's amazing, Jamar, and I guarantee there are some people out there that would hear this and like freak out and be like, oh my God, now that's like the penultimate of drone spying. But when you think about it, I mean, I have my phone, I just turned it on silent mode for this podcast, but I can't tell you how many times I've had a conversation about pick a topic, right? And then all of a sudden I'm on Facebook and boom, an ad pops up for that. It's just like, wait a minute, my phone listening to me?
Yeah.
And like answer would be yes. And I mean, you can walk into Macy's right now and go shopping, and there's definitely cameras recording what you're doing, exactly what you're talking about. So, but what I love about this, not only from a marketing standpoint, right, which like as you said now, okay, we're understanding, okay, what ads people are reacting to in a positive manner. So we'll keep doing those. You're from a business standpoint, it's spectacular. But what I also love about it, this isn't dual use technologies month, right? But you could have easily been featured in almost any theme I had this whole year, Jamar, with what you're doing. And, dual use was February. Homeland Security and Border Patrol and all kinds of, let's just call it, security and defense, I think market use cases for this application, for this banner, this digital banner.
Yeah, I love it. I don't have a military background, but I love learning about it, and I respect all the individuals who have served. And so when I look at what's valuable to them that I'm learning, it's reducing time, it's making operations more efficient, it's de-escalating, hostile situations, making people feel like they're going to make it home at night and get their job done at the same time, kind of deal, right? So when we think about how to help with that, how to use our technology to support that, it looks like two-way communications at the border, maybe with native languages being displayed on a screen, where you've got families that are coming in dozens or by the hundreds, and it's hard to police or manage that. Now you've got some sort of not just aerial situational awareness, because you'll have cameras on the drone, but now you can have a person on the screen that looks in has language in script that they can read, if not potentially be audio based at some point, giving directives, information, calming the situation. A lot of that is based out of fear, anger, frustration. Anything that we can do to help our technology reduce that, it's good. On the public safety side, when we think about venues in a time of active shooters, in a time of missing persons, Amber Alerts, emergency evacuation notifications, using the AI to go from looking for faces to dangerous objects or weapons that it may by chance see. Hopefully it never will have to, encounter those things, but maybe during a tailgating event, there's, a bomb in the back of a car or something, who knows, or if someone's a gun in a waistband, drone just so happens to be there promoting some product, that AI on that drone sees that, runs it through a scrub, let's just call it a scrub, to make sure it's not a false positive, instantly relays that location that it just pinged, where it picked up that image, right to the first responders of the stadium, whoever is there, potentially completely avoiding, stopping an incident, or at least discouraging it or delaying it in a chance for first responders to intercept or respond.
As I'm listening to you, Jamar, and I've heard some of these use cases before, we've talked about them, it makes me think of a new term, almost like Uber dual use, because dual use technologies, generally speaking, are like, okay, there's one value for the commercial sector and a completely different value for the military security agencies or something else. In your case, it's doing it simultaneously. There could be a commercial use, like you said, we're displaying ads. And then in the background is the security purpose happening. I mean, just think about that from a business standpoint. Like you said, from the end, let's just pick the NFL. They hire you to do this. Not only would commercial, like in one drone, a commercial company and their security company can get that information. I mean, that's wild. I mean, that is unbelievable.
That's our goal to make. And you said something in Las Vegas that stuck with me. So thank you for using this term, humanizing the drone experience, and that stuck with me as a way to really explain it in a very simplified way. When I first started in drone operations, it was real estate or clandestine operations, surveillance. People hear drone, they think military, they think spying. So now you can buy drones at Walmart. You can buy them at Best Buy of all types and shapes and sizes, for all the way from $30 up to thousands of dollars. And hobbyists are becoming a big part of it. So families are understanding it now. The value's there. So what we're doing is we're kind of on the flip side of drones. We love the survey drones. We love the infrared drones. All of that stuff's amazing. That's industrial. We're on the humanizing side of it, where we're like birthday parties, Disneyland, Pepsi, festivals, concerts, Coachellas, big events. We want the everyday event goer to feel comfortable around drones and see the value and how they're going to improve the human situation. That's ultimately what these things were designed to do.
And then at the exact same time, like helping the security agencies and all of those public safety and law enforcement professionals potentially being able to kind of tap into that information in the right way, right? Like we want privacy needs to be protected. And I know we've talked about this, and this isn't matching, at least at this time, right? Without a warrant, like some face with some database. It's not with a point. It's more, like you said, almost like in a way anonymized, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are these people? So Jamar, I do want to take a second here, and we've got so many people jumping into the chat. It's amazing. So Kevin Sanders is jumping in from South Florida. Kevin is a retired Air Force, by the way, and saying South Florida is the mecca for promotional opportunities. And Kevin's a guy you want to know. So if he's, by the way, lashed up with Tony Drummond. So we got to get you the intro to Kevin. And then Phantom is still liking the stream. We've got Sheila Bugby saying, Jamar, your platform is so exciting. And Dan Julin from Canada, who, by the way, they have this cool Robird. By the way, they're going to be on the podcast in June. Dan is going to be. He says, this is a fantastic application for drones for good. Mobile information delivery. Write that one down, Jamar. That's a good one. Mobile information delivery. I love how many different applications have come up in the last year. Well done, Jamar. And then
thank you, Dan. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so lots of great stuff. Look, Jamar, I could talk to you forever, and I wish we could, but I want to respect everybody's time. We got about 2 minutes. So what I want to do is give you the opportunity, whatever we didn't cover, whatever you want to kind of leave folks with, how they can get in touch with you, kind of what's next for PromoDrone. Let's do that kind of wrap up so we stay on target. But this has been spectacular. Thank you so much, by the way, for sharing, some of that personal information. I think, that's what I love to do, is talk to leaders like yourself, because there's so many, I'll say, threads amongst the folks that are successful. And, your story of how you came up, the support you had from your family, the challenges you've overcome. And by the way, everybody, we didn't get into deeply a lot of, kind of some of the racial things that Jamar had experienced as a drone pilot. Check out the Clubhouse. We did get into that. I don't like to repeat all the same information, so go back and listen to that. But Jamar, the floor is yours for the last minute or so here to kind of wrap up and tell us whatever we missed, whatever you want to leave us with.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. This is great community of people. Thanks for the engagement from all the listeners and viewers. I'd just like to say we all are very fortunate because we get to be at the birth of like an entire industry. And I think back to when, computers were made and the internet. I was just like, I wish I would have known. I wish I could have been a part of that. Well, like now we can. So now's the time to be very active and purposeful about what we're building. And networking and connections, this is important because we're building an industry and no one person or company in this segment is going to do it on their own. It's going to take support. It's going to take trial and error, change. and all those things together for us to move the entire industry forward so that, the whole world can recognize and appreciate the impact that we're having globally. When I look at Henry Ford, there's no way he would envision a world that looks like it does today with cars that'll soon be flying. The Model T, that wasn't it, right? So that's where we are. This is our Model T era, as technologically advanced as we are. 150 whatever many years from now, this is all ancient technology, so we are creating the foundation for what's to come in our entire industry. So take it seriously, enjoy what we're doing, have some fun while we're doing it. If you want to connect with us, the easy way is just info@promo-drone.co. Shoot us an email there, it'll go to the team and we can disseminate and we'll respond. And what I would also like to say is partnerships are what really make this happen. We have some really cool partnerships that we're excited to announce. I'm like on the edge of my seat, just can't make them just yet, but it's things that are monumental that are really going to push us forward. We're developing our beta currently, so we'll have more news, images, updates on what the beta is going to look like, the next version of our new system, which is shaping up pretty nicely. And we're just pushing. We're like everybody else, scrappy and trying to get to the next level. So thank you for your support on this journey.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Jamar, for taking the time to be with us. Thank you, everybody out there. I missed Arlen Denny, by the way, saying very interesting content. I'm going to be checking out PromoDrone to learn more about your capabilities. So you've got fans out there, Jamar. You've got one in me. I hope you know that. Obviously from the minute I met you and Jory back here in Vegas, you had a lifelong fan in me. So it's really an honor and a privilege for you to be on my podcast this month. And by the way, I do want to thank Iris Automation for sponsoring Industry Diversity Month. Really appreciate everything Iris is doing to support this industry. They're doing great things out there too. And real quick, tomorrow, everybody, it's kind of our last hurrah for Industry Diversity Month. So on Clubhouse tomorrow, 11 a.m. Mountain. And by the way, I'll be back in Colorado for this. We have Pramod Raheda. He's going to be a Caresoft partner, part of that series. His company's called Airgility, and they're doing crazy things with AI too, and some of the drones they've created. The Minotaur is one of them, and we're going to talk a lot about that. And Pramod is going to be also on the podcast next week, same time, same place. So that's all she wrote, everybody. Thank you so much for dialing in. I know we're a minute or two over, but I know it was well worth it. And thanks, Jamar. Everybody out there, all my pilot fans, fly safe. We are out here.